Realtor. My name is Jorge de Jesus. If you don't know who I am, I'm part of the Matt Freeman team, Katy's top real estate team. We are with Century 21 Western Realty, and we're going to keep it short, sweet, and simple. I know your time is valuable, so let's look at. We're going to look at four main things, and then I'm going to give you sort of my thoughts on what's going on. I want to look overall. What we do with the Market Mondays is look at the overall trajectory. You can't really predict what's going on in the market, or what's going to happen in the market, I should say. But you can get a sense of where it's headed, and that's all really you can do to make decisions. You can't really do much else. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the last week, only in the Katy area. And between new construction and resale homes, you're looking at about 234 homes that have been either completed the sales process, are pending, or are in what's called the option period. And I have a few other videos, shorter videos, where I get into what these terms mean, so I won't bore you with those. But let's say we only look at not new construction. So a huge chunk of what the activity is, at least in the multiple listing service, is resale homes. However, for new construction, hundreds of homes are sold every single day. They're just not reflected in the system. So keep that in mind. If you're a buyer, keep that in mind. You have those options. They're available to you. They're always available. Prices have sort of leveled out. They were raising prices. So a lot, actually, what's going on, and I'll go off on a small tangent, is builders, what they're doing is they're only releasing a small amount of homes, or only allowing a certain amount of sales per week or per 2-week period. That's to prevent price fluctuations to affect you when you go to close. Let's say you go under contract one day, and then 3 days later you go to close and say, well, materials are X times higher than what we quoted you at the beginning. So to prevent that from happening, they're only allowing a lot of them, not all of them, they're only allowing a certain amount of sales. So keep that in mind when you're out there shopping. If you're looking to sell, remember that these, depending on what part of Katy you're in, a lot of Katy's already not competing with new construction. So like if you're east of 99, either 77450 or 77449, you're not competing with a huge amount of new construction when you go to sell your home. And we can talk about that later. If you have any questions, I'm going to leave my information. But anyways, yeah, so then if we take away the ones that are impending, you're left with 72 homes that sold last week that were not new construction in the Katy area. And we're not going to get into the specifics of each sale, because I cannot get into that information. But what I can do is, we can jump into some of the trends that we're seeing. Actually, before that, just for context, right? Just so that we have that context, let's look at what the week before that gave us. So it looks like, let me just make sure. The week before that, we had more sales than this past week. Does that mean that things are leveling off? Not necessarily. It could just be it could just be a fluke. Let's look. See, So it does fluctuate. But for this past week, about 72 sales. Let's look at a few other numbers that are going to help us kind of sort out uh, trends. So let's look at the last few months. Single family homes, only in the Katy area. If anybody knows how to turn off this predictive thing, that'd be great. Is that's not helpful at all. Mount Everest ain't got on me, 'cause I'm on top of the world. Alright, let's try this one last time. If not, we're gonna go enjoy our... What is this? It's spring break. Let's go enjoy our spring break and we'll film some other day. I'm gonna ask Santa for a new laptop. I think we're done with this one. My computer heard me and decided to work. Alright. Okay. So let's change that so it's much more clear what's going on. So what we're seeing is the average day on market represented by this line the last 3 months. And it's the same thing that I've been saying the last couple of updates, is that homes are staying longer on the market. The last few months, the last few weeks, we've seen more sales. So what's happening is this is the beginning of a spring market that's going to bring more inventory to market, and we're going to double check this hypothesis. But then what's also happening, the reason why we're not seeing average days on market that are lower, which I want to say about 6 months we were around this range, is because we continue to, represented by these columns, raise the average listing price. So whether it's the agent doing it or the seller doing it, or because nobody's really because buyers are still buying, whoever is that's making the decision ultimately, we're still raising the prices on average every single month, right? So every single month we're going into new territory. List price. Let's look at sales price. So it's about, you're still seeing where list price was at about where list price averages were steadily rising, you're seeing sale price come in not only lower on average than list price, because I mean you still have a ton of these homes that are selling way over asking, but let's focus more on what's happening here from this month to this month, which in the grand scheme of things is just a 3-month period. It might not mean anything. However, it's super interesting because your average sales price, your average actual price that it actually ends up selling at, has been stagnant. So then the question is, does April show a column that looks like this one, or does it show a column that's higher, or does it remain stagnant versus list prices that are continuing to rise? So that's super interesting. This is just a question to just kind of let it percolate. I'm not making any predictions. I'm not a prediction maker. What I want to see though is just to hopefully put this into perspective, and we'll close with this. What happens is we believe that it's because of the times that we're in, that it's because we think that just because of everything that's going on now, this is why prices are what they are. You're getting beat on, our buyers are getting beat on offers for X amount and this and that. And that's completely understandable. But if you take yourself out of the situation and actually give yourself a larger perspective, you'll see that this isn't new territory. You'll see that this is what always happens. You'll see that because we're so close to the situation, and because there's a lot of hysteria going on with what's going on in the market, that we forget that this is what it's always been. Now, one last thing. No, I can only go to 18. So one last thing is the actual prices themselves. So I'm not an economist, so I'm not going to dive too deep into inflation or any of these things, but I just want you to know that these $300,000 homes in 2021, they're the same $370,000 homes in 2022. And they're the same $220,000 homes from 16, $200,000 homes from 2012. They're the same homes. The exact same homes. 3-bedroom, 2-bath, whatever the layout is. The area is what is really, the location of the home is really what's going to really dictate what the differences are. So what you need to remember if you're buying and if you're selling, specifically, remember that the location of the home itself is not the thing. It's the location of the home that's going to dictate these prices. And that your perspective should shift so that you see this $370,000 home that was $300,000 2-3 years ago, that was $200 and something thousand 6-7 years ago, that in 6-7 years it's going to be X amount higher. So I hope that puts things in perspective. We're going to cut it off here, and we'll see you next Monday.